I had to either decide, to let this thing encompass me. I got really, really down. I got in a dark place. I don't know if you want to call it depression or what you want to call it. I never got to the point where I think I was suicidal or anything like that, but I got to a very, very dark place. And the one thing I needed to do was level myself out. So I started looking for things to do that were not cop, and I started delving into comedy and writing. And I never imagined that comedy would turn into what it has turned into today. And I think that's good because that I was doing it for the right reasons. I still am, but it was just to clear that mental health. So like being out on stage, I think we're all going to be the adrenaline junkie, no matter who we are, kind of because
Yeah,
like I get that
100%.
rush being on stage, but it's a rush where I get to express some of the things and I get to talk about it. And then along with that was the mental health counseling, and I've done EMDR therapy, and I've gone and seen a law enforcement psychologist. With anybody who's going to a psychologist, any psychologist is good, but I got to highly recommend going to a law enforcement psychologist because I found myself going to these EAP, employee assistance program psychologists, who couldn't relate to what I was talking about. And while I was talking about things, I'm like watching them make faces of like sheer terror and disgust. And so then it kind of became a game for me. Like I would just kind of like mess with them a little bit. And it was because they weren't taking me seriously in the
Yep.
way that like they were trying to do their job, but they were not understanding what I was dealing with. And anybody we talk to, if they don't understand what you're truly encountering, what you're dealing with, it's hard to build that rapport. And when I went to Brower and Associates, I was able to make those connections with the right counselors who knew where I was coming from, who understood the jargon and the life that we lead as police officers working shift work. And man, that really made a difference to me. And then I trusted them, and then they were able to get me the EMDR therapy. The whole point of this was getting from being a cop to being stand-up comedy to just being the identity of Vinnie Montez, who is both a family person, a comedian, a cop, but there's more of a rounded. I am a round guy to begin with, but it's more of a it's more of a rounded balance today. And if people ask me what do I do, the first thing I'll tell them is I'm a stand-up comedian. And it's not that I don't acknowledge and honor the profession that I'm in. I absolutely do. But that is my job.
Yes,
That is not who I am as a person.
man. I think we could end right there. No, not really. But what you said a lot of profound things. You thank you for opening up about how you did go to EMDR and then psychologists who were prior law enforcement or active law enforcement, whichever. But to those police officers out there that are listening to this who are hesitant to get help, whether they think it'd be career suicide or just because they still think like, well, I can do this on my own, and it's come to that point where you really can't. You got to reach out for some assistance. What encouragement do you give to make that leap, to make that call?
Well, everybody that comes in the organization now, I'm in charge of our field training program where I work, and um, it's no secret. You can look it up online. I work for the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, and I usually don't talk about that, but I just feel like our agency is really leaps and bounds ahead of the curb for mental health. We have an employee assistance program, but we have a peer support team who is really good. Not about when we just have those critical incidents, but we have people who reach out on the regular when a call just appears to have maybe been tough when we're reading the summary, just to check in because it's not just the big critical calls that need check in. Like I told you, for me, it was those over a long period of time traumas that I was taking on that I didn't even realize. And I tell the young officers, I go, look, you have this big glass or this chalice. And as you're starting your career, it's very empty because you're super smitten to be here, you're excited, and you don't have a lot of that trauma, which is good. It is really good. But as you start working through time, you start adding to that chalice. And if you're not working to constantly empty that, you're going to get to the point where you overflow. That's what happened to me. So what I do personally, where the rubber meets the road for Vinnie Montez is I'm very open about my problem, about the ongoing issue. I don't think I'll ever completely fix my mental health issue. Sometimes I call it getting wrapped around the axle and I spin where my mind won't let me turn off sometimes. And I just keep spinning about something, but I'm very open about that. And I think a lot of people, if they at least listen, and I only reach one person, I mean, it'd be great if I can impact everybody. But like me, that young officer who talked to the sheriff and said, I'm good, sheriff, I'm good to go. Every young person I think coming up has some of that. So they got to figure it out for themselves. And some people are very smart and they figure it out right away. And some people are kind of thick minded and thick headed like I was. And I kind of had to figure it out the hard way. I'm that person who's always had to touch the stove to know that it's hot. But for me, the big thing is reducing the stigma. And if I can stand as a commander in my organization and say, look, I've struggled with my mental health, I still do to this very day, but I'm still here and been able to progress through my organization. I'm still able to be effective. What do you have to be ashamed of? There are people to your left and to your right who are always willing to help. And you know this statistic. We lose 3 times the amount of cops every year to their own hand than we do in the line of duty. That is significant to me. And I don't want that to be people in our organization or any organization. So if I can be the person who's standing up and I could be a mechanism for people to say, hey, look, Vinny, he's not ashamed to talk about this. He's a commander in our organization, then maybe I could still, help be impactful to those young people coming up. We certainly need them more than ever. And I think the stresses along with the political culture of everything going on around the country, coupled with the fact that policing is getting tougher day by day, I do think that that's where the rubber meets the road for me and where I can make the best bang for my buck.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were talking about how, you're a commander still making a difference for those entering and telling them to address their mental health, I can only think, like, if you didn't get the help back after that incident in 2008, which was just the straw that broke the camel's back, had you not gotten the help, had you not had an outlet through comedy, man, I don't know if you'd be a commander right now,
Oh, I completely agree with you. I've taken some time off recently. I've been able to do some shows for the military and just vacation and stuff. The part about it is disconnecting and completely recharging those batteries as often as you can. The thing Dr. Kevin Gilmartin would say is you'd hear officers saying or deputies saying, I used to do this or I used to do that. Comedy is so ingrained in me now and sometimes the things that I think, they never even meet the stage, but just writing those things out for me or I send myself emails all the time on my personal email. I think about something and I'll send it out and then I'll go back later on. I'll just reflect on it, but taking that time to disassociate my brain from the day-to-day work and the grind that goes on in every law enforcement organization and just focus on something else, which makes me laugh and I think is funny. I mean, there's a lot of things I write that people do not think that are funny. But to me, I find it funny, and that's where the healing is for me. But it's separating yourself and having that fine balance. So for me, I really feel like that's where it's helped me out, and I'm proud of it. And yeah, I don't care who you are in the organization, from the very top all the way to the line level. You have to be able to acknowledge those things, and I think it's incumbent upon me as a leader not to expect everybody else to change. I'm sorry, let me say this correctly. It's not up to the line level to change everything. Law enforcement is different today. It's just the way we do business, the practices, everything is different. And my mindset, the way I was indoctrinated into law enforcement, has really changed a lot. And it's up to me to be that leader, to be able to open up myself and think differently, to welcome those younger generations that are coming in, because they're the ones that are really I'm taking my hat off to. They're coming in, they're willing to do this job during this tough time. And we have to be willing to adapt and change. And that old school mentality of being like, you good? Yeah, I'm good. Are you tough? Yeah, I'm tough. That whole thing has to go by the wayside. It's important for them to see us adopt and say, look, these things are really need to change. The mental health is paramount for our people. And here's the best part of it. If we as leaders in these organizations take it upon ourselves to make sure that we're taking care of protecting that mental health from the very get-go, unlike I experienced. And I'm not blaming any of those people that was coming up. It was just different.
Yeah.
But we can keep them for a longer period of time. The longevity will be better. Hopefully we can keep people from going to the bottle or those other self-medicating remedies that they find, which are very unproductive and end up leading to people losing their careers. And I just hope that if there's a way for people to see this, especially the mental health component young in their careers, that they just live productive and very healthy, normal lives, if normal is even a word we can use in law enforcement.
Yeah, very true, man. You are not only funny, but you are very wise. I can tell wow, you show leadership too. I admire the heck out of you, Vinny.
Thank you.
When you were speaking about mental health, and then you said you got into the comedy to help your mental health. What was that journey like when you said, all right, did you think I'm going to be a comedian or I'm just going to get into comedy? What was that journey like when you first started in it?
Oh, let me just tell you. So it was like going through the FTO program all over again, but in a different way.
I bet.
We don't get good at anything overnight. I remember finally getting out of the FTO program, and you're on your own for the first time, and you're like, do I really know enough to actually do this? I mean, like you're all signed out, like, and you're going to the call, and of course, inevitably you get that call, and you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But
Right.
you lean on your partners, you call them, and you're like, I'm not sure what to do, and they help you out. And then over the course of time, and I tell all our young deputies coming on now, I'm like, listen, if you think you're going to learn this job while you're in the field training program, no, we're teaching you the basic fundamentals just to, survive this. But it's that time of doing it over and over and repetition, right? It's the same thing in comedy. I grew up in the Denver comedy scene. I would go to places like Squire's Lounge and all these places on Colfax and throughout Denver that were open mics. Nobody was listening. The people in the crowd were majority comedians that were trying to be up and comers as well. And people yelling at you, not paying attention while you're trying to do stand up. But you got to go through that in order to get good.
Wow.
And anything that you spend all the time working at, like if you're going to be a great defensive tactics instructor, you have to spend the time getting good at it. If you're going to be good with your service weapon, you got to spend the time putting in. It's not like you go out there and you shoot 1,000 rounds all at once and all of a sudden you're great. It's that consistent effort, time and time again, building that muscle memory so that it's no longer you're thinking about it, you're just doing it. Comedy is no different. You just have to put the time into it, and there was no shortcuts coming up. I had to fail miserably, just like you do as a police officer on the street. And that's the thing I think in 2023 is the hard thing is in order to get good at doing something, especially being a cop, oh my gosh, your failures have to be vast. But in 2023, it's hard because everybody expects you to be so perfect right out of the gate. And there's no way to do it. There's no way to get great people. As we were going through all these turmoil with law enforcement, I always bring this analogy up. And I'm like, do you want the doctor that just graduated medical school to be the one doing your open heart surgery? Or do you want the veteran who's had that heart stop on the table, who's dealt with major complications? I want the veteran. I don't want that new person going, well, let's try to figure out what we need to do here right now. Let's just, I want them to know, stat, do this quickly, do this, and it's the same thing. In order to get those cops who are just become very good at what they do, it takes time and experience and failure. And gosh, let me tell you, as a comedian, it has not been any different. My first 2 minutes on stage here at Denver's Downtown Comedy Works were scary. And I mean scary. Like I've done scary stuff, and I'm not afraid to say that I've been scared doing this job as a cop. But man, being in front of a crowd, just trying to hold their attention for 2 minutes and be funny the first time, oh my gosh! But they saw something in me. They saw a spark of light or something, and they invited me back, and I got 3 minutes the next time. And then over the course of the last 15 years, I've got to the point where I'm at now. But it's only been through the biggest failures you could ever possibly imagine.
Man, not only are you funny, wise, law enforcement leader, you just gave some like life coaching advice there too. A man of many hats. So you started the comedy career, and then eventually that all transpired into or led to you teaming up with other funny cops throughout the country, and
Yep.
y'all created Humanizing the Badge. That was, it started a little while ago, but and there's some police officers or people that probably listen to my podcast. They have no idea about it. So please tell us all about that.
So I was not the creator of Humanize the Badge. I just got brought into it. I think it was somewhere in the middle of 2018. A lot of people know Officer Daniels, and I looked him up and I got his business email and I sent him this thing and I was like, I'd love to collaborate with you. And I think it was in 2018. I just can't remember like when exactly, but roughly 2018. I'm getting ready to do this show in Lafayette, Colorado. This is before the pandemic. And I'm literally about to go on stage, and I'm on the side of this place called Nisi's in the showroom. And I'm on the side. I'm kind of looking over some notes. I'm getting ready to go on stage, and here appears this gentleman in front of me, and he's like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, and when you're getting ready to go on stage, your mind is very focused about what you're about to do. And I recognize him, but I can't put two and two together. My brain wouldn't let me do it.
Right.
And he's like, "Officer Daniels," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I freaked out. I totally fangirled him, and I was like, I never expected him just to show up to my show. And so he's like, "Hey, in between the first and second show, let's chat." And I'm like, "Yeah," but I go up on stage and I acknowledge him when I go up on stage, and he's not the guy. He doesn't like that. He's super humble, and he doesn't need to have that acknowledgement. So anyway, and most of the people there, I don't know if they knew him or not, but the show's over. And he takes me outside and he puts me on his platform and he's like, "Let me introduce you guys to Vinnie Montez." And then we spent some time over the next several months getting to know each other and really kind of developing. And they invited me to Las Vegas, Nevada. This was like right after the Mandalay Bay shooting.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and they wanted me to go to a Project Human event, which where they go, several of the people who humanize the badge will come into a city. They'll help to raise funds. And I think in that situation, it was to like help some of the officer associations affiliated with officers that responded to the Mandalay Bay. But we also visited the youth correctional facility with 15, 16-year-old juvenile kids who were having gun charges and all these things, and trying to build that relationship between them and law enforcement, which was fascinating. I got to do all this, but I got to meet a bunch of the team members, and I think that was their process of being like, do we want to, is this guy, who is this guy? Is he okay? Is he not okay? Like, who is this bundle of joy? And the next thing you know, they did bring me onto the team, and I've been able to do other Project Human with them, and basically humanize the badge. The underlying structure of it is to basically do exactly that: humanize the badge, show the positive that law enforcement is doing. Some of the people part of Humanize Badge are like AJ Johnson, who's a Columbus, Ohio police officer, who they call him Oh No, It's the Popo online, but he does a lot of stuff to work with kids. You got Deputy Hookham and Bookham out of California, and Officer Daniels, and so on. And then you got Vinnie Montez, the stand-up comedian. We're all just trying to show the other side that people don't often get to see, because often cops are never called to the scene when things are going extremely well, when people are graduating from high school, or when there's anniversaries or family gatherings of happiness. I don't ever get 911 calls saying, hey, bring everybody over from the squad tonight. Let's hang out. We're having some pizza and stuff. It's only when stuff goes completely the other way. So that's in a nutshell, that's what the organization that I've been a part of since about 2018.
Oh, awesome. And I got to see you live in November at the National Concerns of Police Survivors event. And
I know.
it was hilarious. I have to ask, and you can say no if you want, but
Yeah.
can you tell the audience about the time when, or the listeners, about the time when your mom did a ride along with you?
So my mom has rode along with me quite a bit, and I play it up a little bit. I'm gonna kind of give you the behind the scenes story. My mom has always been like a diehard fan for my brother and I. No matter what, she's ride or die, right? Um, but I may embellish that a little bit where she gets up on the PA, but my mom is first and foremost protective. And to give you an idea, I remember we were out at recess. I was in elementary school, and statute of limitations is up on this, Mom, so you're safe. But some kid, some bully, pushed me down on the playground, and my mom happened to be like driving by, or was like watching over, just stopped by recess to see how I was doing, but I didn't know she was there. And she flew out of the car, came over, and she pushed this kid. She's like, "Don't ever touch my mijo. That's my mijo. I love my mijo." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And I was embarrassed, one, but it told me how committed my mom was to us. And so when I rode along, or I'm sorry, my mom's rode along with me, and she's in that passenger seat, and she sees some of the interactions that I'm having. Like I've had to be like, okay, look, I got this. There's no reason for you to involve yourself. But like, anytime somebody says something against her son, she takes that personal. She wants to get involved, and that evolved into her trying to back me up on a scene where I'm dealing with a drunk guy in the comedy world. And people love that. And I call my mom the Mexican Wolverine because she is so tough. And I've written her into a lot of my bits, because that is truly, she's always that Mexican, the traditional Mexican moms. If you have a young man, a Latino, who says they're not a mama's boy, they're absolutely lying. I'll say right now, because my mom will probably see this at some point in time, yes, I am a mama's boy. She comes first and foremost. That's the way it is, and she'll throw down right now. She's 77, but like, look, she's ready to get in there like Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, absolutely. And that was one of the funniest bits I remember from watching you for the first time. And
Yeah.
hey, if you do that bit again in Las Vegas when we all meet up for the Wounded Blue, I look forward to
Yeah.
hearing it again.
Well, no, hopefully I'll do that. I'll tell you what was so sad about the cops conference, and it was a great conference, but I think they only gave me like 18 minutes of time to perform. Like
Yeah.
normally I perform for 45 minutes to an hour, but I hope they bring me back and they give me more time, because that crowd, we were having a great time, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's got to end. So
yeah, no, we were. Oh my gosh, the people I was sitting with, I mean, we were just rib aching laughter. I mean, it was great. And so it's great to see you on the national stage. I mean, it finally happened. And to go back to what you had briefly mentioned, how was your recent travel to Alaska with Matt Scannell, who's the lead singer from Vertical Horizon?
Oh my gosh, I got to tell you, first of all, I want to just thank the Gary Sinise Foundation for having me out, because they paid for that tour and they brought Matt and I up there. And I really didn't know what to expect because I've never performed for the troops before. But it was so amazing because we went to places like that are out there. I mean, we got to have people defending us, right? Well, Clear Space Force Station is way like 2 hours north of Fairbanks, and they're like this radar facility, and there's nobody out there, man. I mean, I can attest. We maybe passed a moose while I was going to this place. And when we got everybody together that night for the show, you could just see how much joy because, a lot of this wintertime people don't realize is very dark up there. There's not a lot for there. There's nothing for them to go do, so they're on that base all the time. So to just do that one, and then we went to Fort Greely and Fort Wainwright, and in the last month, Fort Wainwright lost a couple of their military people during a helicopter crash. So to bring a little laughter to that base, especially where we were hosted at for the entire time we were there, and then go to Fort Greely, and we ended at Eielson Air Force Base. I gotta tell you, it's probably one of the most prestigious things to me that I've ever been allowed to participate in. It was very humbling for me to be able to give back to our military because I look at them. I was never able to serve. I've served in a different capacity as a police officer, but they're the ones that allow us to have the freedom that we have today to do the things that we do. For me to express comedy, do all those things. So I'm very, very I was very honored to be able to do that. Just to watch them smile, and they had some of them had their significant others there. It was great. And so, if I ever get a chance to do that again, I will absolutely do it. But man, I can't even say enough about how much fun we had. And Matt and I became really good friends over a short period of time. And it just was I'd never been on a tour like that. Going on a tour for comedy is one thing, but going on a professional tour where you're performing with like real live artists out there and stuff, and there's like a production manager and a tour manager. I was like, again, I was fangirling. I'm the one headlining the show, but I was like, this is so cool.
No, I was thrilled to see a video on LinkedIn of you and Matt standing side by side talking about the tour that was coming up.
Oh yeah,
Really cool because I've seen Vertical Horizon 3 times in concert. I'm a big fan. And needless, I was in high school when they came out with that big hit that got them going. And
everything you want, everything you need. I think
that one, and then You're a God and I Am Not.
oh
and
yeah,
yeah, that was a big one. So it was just like holy mo, look at that. That's Vinnie Montez beside Matt Scannell. How cool is that? So
dude,
yeah,
and that guy, I'm gonna tell you right now, Matt can sing.
yes, he
He
can.
brought the house down every single night, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And he had everybody into it. So Matt, if you ever see this, which I hope you do, I'm giving you credit, man. You did a heck of a job.
I was going to say that back in 2005, my brother and I were actually deployed to Iraq, and I was on my second deployment back then. And a really stressful time towards the end of the deployment. We were just we had gone through a lot, and we were just ready to go home. A few weeks before we were going home, the USO came in and did a show, and comedian Jeff Ross was there, Colin Quinn, and those two comedians right there they made me forget where I was. Like I literally forgot I was in a combat zone. So Vinny, I have no doubt. I'm not saying that Alaska's a combat zone, but they're under a lot of stress being stuck on the base essentially. Because I've been on a base where there's nothing to do. It can mess with you. And, I know that you brought them the break, the morale booster, the fun they needed. So I know it meant the world to them because I've been there where you just need a total break from what you've been doing.
Were you a Marine?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for your service. Man, that's crazy. 2 tours, and I can't even imagine what that's like. And I was listening to Matt and Judy Seal, who represents Stars and Stripes while we were up there. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to them talk about all the tours that they did into the Middle East. And just like even Matt, when he was on stage at the beginning, he talked about watching this young lady at one of the bases, full gear and the Kevlar vest and everything. And it was 120 degrees, and she's just walking across this base, and he was just watching her going like he was dying from the heat. And here she is in full gear, and she's just like, I got a job to do, and she's going to do it. And I that just stayed with me because I was like, we forget sometimes that, we're here. And you just said when you're on base, you kind of excluded from the rest of the world, and you kind of gets in your head. And we forget, I think, as Americans and as just people that are living under this fabric of freedom that was provided by the people like you who served, is there's always somebody that's out there serving, and there's always somebody in that military uniform that's standing post or sentry or whatever they're doing, and sometimes unbearable conditions. And man, I just want to take that point, just like Matt did, and say acknowledge those people, because I'm grateful for your service and for all those men and women who are serving in the armed forces. God bless each and every one of them. And I mean, you just can't forget that.
Absolutely. And Vinny, I appreciate you taking the time for this interview. If people want to listen to you or figure out where you're going and find you on stage, your website, YouTube channel, this is your time to pitch you.
Everything is just my name, Vinnie, Vinnie Montez. Every single handle for everything: YouTube, Insta, Twitter, Snap, Twitter, Googlegram, whatever you want to follow me on, it's all there. And if you want to see where I'm performing at, you can go to my website. All the shows are listed there. There's more being added almost every day. And I just want to I want to just say this. I know you gave me a moment to kind of sell myself, but I truly want to just thank everybody who's ever followed me or supported me at a show or taken the time to come up to me and say hello, shake my hand, just interact with me. I'm so appreciative of that, because I can't do any of the things that I'm doing without the response and the support of the people who've given me that support. I'm just Vinnie Montez, plain and simple, but all the people that you don't get anywhere in life without people helping you out. And that's not only been through my career of people taking the time to show me how to do things better, or building me up, or teaching me leadership skills, or whatever the case may be. So I just want to say a sincere thank you to you as well for having me on your show, and just for all the support, because it's a two-way street. You're constantly giving and receiving, and I just want to say thank you, simply.
Please take the time to give the podcast an honest rating and review. I would be very grateful for that. Do not forget to check the show notes below, particularly to get your free mental quick guide. And I look forward to talking to you again in another episode. As always, take care of yourself each and every day, and may God bless.